Welcome back to Rochester Living with Mark Siwiec and Corey James Moran, brought to you by Legion Homes by Mark Siwiec and Associates. This is episode 194. Wonderful guest joining us. I mean, a gem of the community. Could you say that, Mark? Right?
All right, so I just got to lay it out there.
Here we go. Gush.
That's it exactly.
Start gushing.
There is nothing that is going to be. It's just going to be. I adore Jaime Saunders. We are fortunate in this community to have Jaime Saunders as a community leader. Under her leadership, the United Way has just helped thousands upon thousands upon thousands of Rochesterians, millions of dollars. So I'm just gushing. I mean, I'm a big fan. So welcome, Jaime. Thanks so much for being here.
Well, thank you so much for turning my cheeks red right off the bat. So I appreciate it very much.
Absolutely.
All right.
So Jaime is the president and CEO of the United Way of Greater Rochester and the Finger Lakes.
That's right.
You're welcome. You've got extensive nonprofit experience from being the former president and CEO of Willow Domestic Violence Center. You held leadership roles at FoodLink, Center for Governmental Research, Villa of Hope, and the Salvation Army. Before we get into that, how did you get into this sphere? Let's take us to the beginning.
Oh.
Did you always have a call for?
Yeah, well, let's go way back.
Yeah.
When I think about it, when you don't really understand your path or your purpose until you take that moment to reflect. And there's a pretty clear line that I've always been passionate about business and business practice and principles married with social good. And you can see that I was raised in a family business, so sweeping the shop floors at a car electronics place, learning about customer service, learning about people, listening intently. So 8-year-old Jaime Saunders is at customer service training and learning what it means to work really hard. And then I also would see lots of need. And I give that tribute to both my parents, particularly my mother, who lived in New York City, and I would visit her, and you would walk on the street, and she was that kind of person where she knew the name of the person, the homeless person on the corner, and she would give them $1, and we would chat with them or a cup of coffee, and really to see humanity in no matter in circumstance. And so blending those two things together, as a young person, I grew up born in Gananda, which is a 315er for those who know, Wayne County, and then we moved to the Brighton area. And in Brighton, which is an incredible school, incredible district, you learn a lot around social justice. You learn a lot around what it means to be a good public servant. Our current superintendent, McGowan, is an all-time gem favorite.
Former guest, of course, yeah.
Yes.
And one of my favorites, one of my favorite interviews. That was just awesome.
It's about humanity and recognizing the importance of all of the complexities that we bring to the table and opportunities. And Brighton was that for me. So I give it a lot of credit. So fast forward, I just, as a young person, I think Brighton and the school districts, our educators give people opportunity. So I was the one who was like, we have to have a school assembly about elections and what are we doing with the Black Student Union? And, just really trying to understand and learn. Really on the premise that I believe in the fundamental good of everyone. If you give them the opportunity, the education. Are there those who are not good apples? Sure, but that's a very, very small group. So from that, started a nonprofit when I was 21 years old, thinking that we weren't ending hunger and poverty in Rochester. You got a free, attorney, pro bono attorney here in Rochester.
I think at 21 you did this.
Yeah, but my great lesson of that, a wonderful mentor of mine, the founder of FoodLink, Tom Ferraro, may he rest in peace. I was on the front page of the Democrat and Chronicle when it used to be that really thick paper, if you remember.
Less ads, right?
And it was all there. And it was about our organization, nonprofit. We would get food at the public market. We would bring it to St. Joe's Soup Kitchen. We'd make it, and then we would serve it. And then this gentleman named Tom Ferraro was quoted in this article saying, well-intended doesn't help perpetuating the problem. So I called him. And I said,
What's up?
And I said, I'm 22 years old. We're here. Are you out doing it? And he said, do you know what a food bank is? And he brought me in. Eventually, he hired me. And he really poured into me, gave me a great opportunity. Lesson there is, and it still plays out, there are a lot of organizations already doing great things. So first start with that. And I've just been addicted to it ever since. I mean, it's really great.
You went to the Warner School.
No, I'm flirting with the Warner School. I went to Maxwell, which is at Syracuse.
Okay,
yep.
Maxwell,
Top
yes.
MPA program. Yes.
Because we met shortly after I think you graduated.
Yes, we've known each other a long time. Yeah. If I could plug, because Bob Duffy, our police chief at the time,
I was going there. Yeah,
was my letter of reference.
Yeah, and you didn't quite know Bob
Didn't know him at all.
Yeah.
Did not know him at
But
all.
he was impressed in that first meeting.
Yeah, so at Maxwell, which is Syracuse University, a phenomenal program, and I went there and they said candidly I was too young and needed more experience, and I said, well, let's try this again. How else might I get in there? And they said, you need an alumni who will endorse you. And I said, well, who would that be? And they said, do you know your police chief? And of course, we've all watched Bob ascend to lieutenant governor, mayor and lieutenant governor, and now at the chamber. And I give him a lot of credit. You know, there's mentors on your journey who just really stand out. And the fact that he took time with, at that time, I guess I was 23, 24 years old, and he spent over an hour with me on the phone, and he's police chief, and just poured into me and asked questions and supported me on that journey. So I go back to Bob Duffy changed my life because of that. And whenever I feel too busy, wherever I feel I don't have time to return that call or spend time with a young person, I think of a Bob Duffy.
Exact same thing. I've told the story a few times, and I want to get back to you, but really quickly, when we had asked Bob to run for mayor, shortly after we had asked, my phone rings, and I hung up the phone. I turned to Duffy Palmer, my partner,
Yes.
and I said, we're going to win this election. And Duffy said, why is that? And I said, I just had the most interesting phone call. It was from a janitor in the public safety building. And this guy had gotten my name and my number because I was quoted in the paper about Bob's candidacy. And this guy said, I have no money, but every single day, at the end of my day, it's at the end of Bob Duffy's day, it's 7:30, 8, sometimes 9 o'clock at night, as I'm mopping the floor outside of his office, and he's had a long day, and he presses the button to take the elevator down. He turns and he asks how I am, and he spends sometimes 5 or 10 minutes talking to me. And he said, he is a good man. I will do anything to get that guy elected. And I thought to myself, it's
powerful.
Oh,
I love that
my
story.
God. And so I turned it up. I was like, we just got a call from a janitor. We've won this thing. And this was literally 11 months in
it's
advance
character,
of Election Day.
right?
That's
It's character
exactly right.
when nobody's watching. And I bet you
Which
he's
is
never shared
your
that story.
Success.
Wow.
That is so much of your success. So all right, so you graduate from Maxwell.
Yep. That's it? No. Yeah. So my passion, again, is around organizations and nonprofits and bringing business practices. And what I mean by that is I do not have the skills of these amazing social workers. Like I knew right out of the gate that I wasn't the one to work one-on-one. I think much more of what does a social worker need to be his or her best to serve? How do we think in systems? That's where I live in terms of systems change. And so when I've gone through my career, so FoodLink was, again, this gamble from this guy who brought me in, but I wanted to better understand how things worked and how we could make them better, which is why I ended up at the Center for Governmental Research, which is, again, another nonprofit, but it advises governments throughout the state and other states. So it's a really deep dive opportunity of public policy, of boots on the ground, of how do you take a thorny challenge that we're trying to solve and use data-informed strategies to do it. So I'd have to pinch myself. I was around the brightest of the brightest, and then we would go and do interviews from, the night nurse at a county nursing home to understand what her job and the barriers to be successful to the county legislatures and everywhere in between. And you learn a lot. And I loved it. And one time we were doing a project, actually, this is a testament to networking. I said, I want to go to learn about evidence-based programs. So I go to this conference, which actually was at the Memorial Art Gallery. That's where it was being held. And I sat at a table and I said, I'm doing all this research, I'm doing all this advising, but I really want to get back to serving. So I said to the table of people I didn't know, if you know of board opportunities, let me know. And one person in that room, or on that table, followed up. Her name's Deb Salmon, and she connected me to a place called Alternatives for Battered Women.
Yep.
And as I was being interviewed by the board chair to be on the board, he described that current state, which is they had been without a director. At the time, they were struggling with payroll. They had a building for 10 years that was vacant. They couldn't get the project up off the ground. They were struggling in terms of their current tenant situation. And as he finished that conversation, I said, I think I want to go for the director job. And I said, this just seems like a calling. And if I'm not chosen, could I still be on the board? And he said, no, you got to pick one or the other. So I was at the end. I was a surprise applicant. It surprised myself. I wasn't looking to leave, but it was something that just seemed like I could marry, again, these practices about how do you run an organization with this public good. Thankfully, they took a chance on me. Again, I'm not in social work background. I did not have intimate partner or domestic violence training or background, but it was a wonderful opportunity to do good things and have really strong board members who took a chance on me. And from that, you mentioned, but when you served on our cabinet, we raised dollars. We have one of the best shelters in the country in terms of state-of-the-art, fortress of security and sanctuary. Raised the capital campaign, left them with all these dollars and expansion of programs and services, including the court program. Current director Megan DeChatevue is extraordinary, one of my best hires of my life.
Let me
Yeah.
just back up.
Some more gushing. Gush.
I'm gonna gush. Yes. So you raised $8 million.
Yeah.
Do you see the difference? She said we
Yeah.
raised some money. He said $8 million.
$8 million.
Yeah.
Shortly after you took over an organization
Yeah.
which couldn't pay its rent
Yeah.
any longer.
Yeah,
And
struggling.
this is where you really start to make your mark in this community and where you start to develop, and you will deny it. And it wasn't your purpose. But as a result of the work that you were doing, this is where legions of fans begin to evolve and start to spring up throughout the community.
Can we get a blush count?
It makes me very uncomfortable. 'Cause
I-
it's
well,
it's
no,
not
sorry,
about,
live
it's
with
not
it.
about me.
Which makes you more endearing.
Live with it.
Yeah.
And so this is
Yeah.
where you and I really started to get to know
Yes.
each other
Yeah.
and became a very
Yes.
close friend.
Yes.
So
Yes.
take us through that experience. I mean,
yeah,
like,
through-
$8
well-
million. How did you do that?
So it's funny as similarly, I wasn't looking to leave Willow because it's near and dear to my heart and always will be. For those who have the honor of being near or around survivors of intimate partner violence or domestic violence, which impacts all genders, it's 1 in 3 of us. So it was a gift of a lifetime to be around so many incredibly dedicated people to make that happen. And we were on the trajectory of expanding. So when we, again, went to our own building, expanded services, I could see the next 10 years. And then there was this request to consider going to United Way. And at the time, I said, no. You were the lunch, the first lunch. I said, I'm not ready. I need to go. I'm not done with Willow. But truly about the United Way is it isn't just one issue, because as wonderful as Willow is, survivors would come to our doors for a whole host of reasons, and we were truly a pit stop, right? We were a very important marker when people are fleeing violence or seeking an order of protection or seeking counseling, but we are a very short piece of their life journey. And there's a whole host of other needs that they have, be that permanent housing, being that mental health supports, be that healthcare, and United Way does all of that. So that was really what drew me to United Way. But Willow is just, again, I attribute to the board. I attribute that to the incredible staff and the community. When it was announced that I was going to United Way, I had a colleague's call and say, "You're the community's fundraiser." And I was like, "I'm not a fundraiser." So you say $8 million. I was like, "I'm not a fundraiser." I admire development people. They're incredible. I've never been trained in it. Here's the need, here's the picture, what's your passion, and match make you. And that's just really what it's about. So I like to understand and develop opportunities for where people can do the most good. And people are the ones that step into it or not. I mean, you've heard me say philanthropy, the very definition, its Latin roots is the love of humanity. And that is what philanthropy is about. And if I'm able to match people's love of humanity through ways that impact others, I mean, there's nothing better.
All right, so I'm just gonna one more, and then I'm done. I swear to God. Okay.
Get ready for the blush count. We're gonna be at 3.
I'm gonna look at you.
So
Yeah.
I remember. I love what you just said, because I remember sitting at lunch at Char with Lauren.
Yes.
And
Lauren
you're like,
Dixon.
no, I can't do it. And so
Another
unbeknownst,
mentor.
unbeknownst to, I'm thinking I've got this great idea. Lauren and I are going to ask Jamie. Well, unbeknownst to me, everybody Colleen Wegman is picking up the phone and begging her, you have to do this. Colleen Wegman, from Colleen Wegman on down. It really was. But I remember saying to you, okay, you can stay at Willow and you can impact that part of our community. But as executive director, CEO of the United Way, you've got this enormous budget, and you're then going to be able to take care of Willow and fund them. and so many other organizations. And thankfully, but the point of that story is really just like the number of phone calls that were placed to you by people from throughout this community, just begging you to become executive director.
It was humbling, and it took 6 months for me to even consider it because it's a huge job. I've long admired United Way. United Way has funded all the organizations I've ever worked at in the background. I didn't understand the critical role to the level until I'm in this seat at United Way, but it really is gracious and really a tribute to these community leaders. I mean, to think about the succession planning or the next step or what's needed for the community is where, again, amazing mentors in our community just makes that happen.
Can you just allude to the scope for maybe some that are watching that might not really fully understand what it is that the United Way does?
Yeah, thank you. So our local United Way, we should be very proud as a community. We are so generous. And our United Way is one of the early ones that was founded over 100 years ago by George Eastman, who did this community chest. The basic knowledge or basic premise is we could do so much more together than we can alone if we pool our resources together to make good. So what's my why and why it's such a great fit is hopefully you can feel it, I'm passionate about mobilizing the caring power of community. It's not just a buzzword, it's truly in our practice and our ethos. And at United Way, over its 100 years, it would go through workplaces. It's the traditional model. We have to evolve, but the traditional model, we would say to Kodak, here we are, it's the annual campaign time, and everybody gets their slip, and everybody does a little bit in payroll. And then you, again, get this amazing check. Back in the day, it was $10 million just from Kodak with one United Way staffer because they had an army of it. And companies use it for culture and for connection and as their give back. Because they can't give to all the charities. And that's still to this day. There are over 4,000 charities in Monroe County alone.
4,000?
That gets close to over 5,000 if you look at our 6-county footprint in the Finger Lakes. About 800 of those 501c3s are human service, which is what United Way focuses on. We're about services of the most basic needs to job training through older adults and transportation. So you're really the holistic services for human needs. So you can't have them all, and not all nonprofits are set up for success or best practices. I go back to, well-meaning Jaime Saunders at 21. I just needed $25 and an attorney to file with the Attorney General. Doesn't mean I was qualified or that I could run a quality program, though I meant well. So at United Way, our job is to look across the community, and one of my favorite parts of the job is people will call to say, I got this great new idea for a nonprofit, and I'll tell them my early Jaime story and say, let's start with the other 20 agencies that exist that really need you right now. Because running a nonprofit in this environment is really challenging. The expectations, the regulations, the criteria, the legal, the cybersecurity, everything businesses need to do, nonprofits have to do, and they have to do it on a shoestring. And it's just a very challenging environment. So we like to, as United Way, we're that partner. We're here to advocate for the sector. But payroll deduction, that was the bread and butter, right? It was at workplaces. When you had the large institutions, that was an easier space. Now we're much more into the smaller organizations. But Wegmans, they are, United Way and the food bank are the main two for them. Aligns with their mission and their purpose. Paychecks is over $1 million each year, and they really partner with United Way as the way to make a big difference. And of course, U of R, the big three.
And we are so poor because this is an incredibly philanthropic community.
Yeah.
But when talk about the impact of when it is that you've got Kodak, Xerox, Bausch and Lomb. I would imagine Harris, and all of these industries that have really left Rochester. That's got to leave an enormous financial deficit, hole. That somehow so talk to us a little bit about that, because I would imagine that starts to impact the kind of service that you can provide to some of the not-for-profits and philanthropics that are out there.
100% right. So when you go back in the day, the heyday with the big three, the exact three that you just mentioned, United Way was averaging about $30 million in a year, which is incredible. Every year, so you celebrate, you have the big party, and then the thermometer goes right back down to zero again, and then we're right back at it. So $30 million. Last year we were just under $18 million, so it's a big swing. Still impressed. Thank you.
Very impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I know we're like it's only $18 million, but it still is $18 million from an incredibly generous community.
But honestly, probably more impressive because you don't have the giant corporations giving $10 million to start with, right?
We do not, and we feel it. If you think about Kodak with with 65,000 employees, and now we're under 6,000 plus. And then people have moved their headquarters, so that's also important. So when you have leaders who don't live here, work here, play here, they don't have the connection to their local community, that also impacts. So all of those swings. What is filled in, however, are individuals. Have filled in is these incredible philanthropists that still lean in, and our workplaces. So we have 600 of them, and they range, but they aren't the 10 million anymore. I just mentioned Paychex at $1 million is incredible. Wegmans is over 4 million, so they are the cornerstone, and U of R is $1 million as well. But there is a range that then are about the 100,000 on down, and every dollar matters. I always want to stress that. As United Way, we are the people's charity, so it's our average donor is $2 a week. And then we have these incredible philanthropists. So we actually are so gracious. People stay with us a long time. And we've started to recognize those who have accumulated over $1 million in giving over their lifetime.
Recipients of that award?
Some recent ones that
Might be
you might
related
know
to someone
of.
on this podcast.
Yes. So we were just so honored to induct them into the $1 million. And if you wanted to mention who that may be in full disclosure.
My in-laws, for sure. Lauren Dixon, Mike Schwabel.
Yes.
$1 Million Club. Really, I mean, incredible.
Absolutely incredible. And I get goosebumps about it. And it just, it's amazing. You do a little bit, and they do a lot. But when people do a little bit over a period of time, it accumulates into something massive. And that's just really extraordinary.
Mark, you're almost there, right? Just a little bit more.
Yeah, I think I'm at $837 right now.
Yeah, we don't round up. You got to really...
Really close, yeah.
Listen, as Jamie said, every dollar matters.
Every dollar matters, yes. So that's changed. So we also... the environment impacts us. So United Way traditionally has been promising multi-year grants, and that's where we've lived for a long time. I will tell you, at Willow, we were a recipient. I counted on United Way. It was the most flexible funding. I could fill in the gaps, and I could count on it for 3 years. That's how the cycle went. We knew as United Way that we couldn't always promise because we don't actually have the money in the bank. We raise it every year and give it out every year, and there was all these changes in the trends. And that really became difficult to sustain. But we stood to it. We announced our new multi-year grants in 2019 and starts in January of 2020. We came out to start our campaign in February, March of 2020, and then everything changed. The whole world went upside down. So 2 things happened with that. We knew we couldn't sustain that level of giving and promise to an uncertain future. May we never have a pandemic, but we're also experiencing a crisis right now that is challenging in terms of fundraising and service delivery. But we had to change. So after our 4-year commitment to our agencies, we then announced a change, and about half of our funding now is that tried and true golden ticket of 3 years of planning. And the other half of our funding is to be responsive every year because things change and the dynamics change. Very painful when you're relied on the same way for decades, 30 years plus. And we made a significant change last summer. We're one of the last United Ways to make that change so that we can be more responsive to immediate needs because it's just constant. The environment is changing so rapidly that we need to be best positioned to do that. But the hardest part, our beloved nonprofits, they are struggling, and that is hard. So where do they look to for support? How do they maintain their services? That's the crucial question. And United Way will always be there. It's just in a different way that we're showing up.
Which had to be so tough, right? It's you feel terrible. You have to, but it's not your fault.
Well, that was last August was a very hard summer. So it was these are beloved colleagues. These are beloved organizations, the organizations I ran or was a part of. And it's nothing to be personal. It really is. We had to change our business model to set us up for the long term. And change was hard in a very dynamic moment, particularly when the public support was ending. So not only was it United Way changing, but the public support, the ARPA dollars, they call it, the American Rescue Plan funds were coming to an end. United Way changing its strategy, all of that crescendo. And then right now, I must say it is even harder for our nonprofits because of the federal landscape changes. And United Way is nonpartisan. We are a neutral party. We are very focused on issues and people, and there are direct impacts happening right now. And so the one silver lining I have of making that change last summer, this year we're able to support the nonprofit sector in a different way, and more is coming out, and you'll hear more about us releasing that in the months ahead. so we can show up different. If we didn't have flexible funds to show up differently, again, we'd be stuck as we were during the COVID time.
Okay, so I just want to go back because
Yeah.
my reading from a distance was last summer, and I'll be
Yeah.
like you seemed.
Yeah.
You seem, and you're not going to respond to this, but I just need to put it out there. You seem to take a lot of heat personally
Yeah.
from individuals in this community who couldn't understand that when you've got Kodak, Xerox, Bausch and Lomb, they're no longer contributing, but you're still able to raise $18 million. This was not of your doing. Thank God you were at the helm.
Oh.
Because if you weren't at the helm, this would have been a very, very different scenario. So thank God for your leadership in terms of pulling this community through that crisis. And and listen, I mean, anybody out there who's criticizing this woman, last summer, shame on you, because I mean, thank God that you were there to shepherd this community in the way that you did. But you
appreciate that.
you get through this crisis, and now you're alluding to what is it's playing out, I think, in Washington,
Yep.
and how that's going to. So now you suddenly find yourself in another crisis that you're going to have to contend with. Can you talk to us and give us maybe a little bit of detail on some of that?
Well, and thank you for saying that. This work is personal for all of us. So for those who last summer had understandable critique, and when you're the face of the organization, you're the face of the organization, and you take that on as a leader. And where we stay grounded, or where I stay grounded in purpose, is I knew it was the right thing to do to set us up for the future. I will be candid. When other United Ways have done this, the leader didn't make it, right? So I actually reached out to my
interesting.
colleagues over the network, because there's 1,100, all local United Ways. We're all very different. But I did an SOS to them, and they said, you're going to either keep your job, you're going to lose your job, or you're going to lose weight, which I did. so it was very.
I would have gained weight. But,
No, it was something. So I really appreciate it, but it was very hard, and I want to give a lot of credit to. It wasn't a Jaime Saunders decision. It's the board, it's our cabinets, our committees, and we had to get through that very difficult time. We also know it takes time to heal, so we have to. And I think the understanding the why until we demonstrate the why, and that's when I think the real healing will happen. So the why, we were shifting again because we can't give out money we don't have. So that was why we said we can do half of what we used to do. The other half will be annual grants. That's behind the curtain, but that's what that was for. We knew before the election, before administration, we knew that we are seeing a great transfer of wealth. So giving is different. The next generations are giving very differently, smaller increments. They're earning less than their parents. We also know nonprofits need more resources, and they are how to sustain it. And we know by 2035, there'll be more retirees than workers for the first time in human history. Wow. What does that mean? That means fewer tax dollars. Tax dollars are what actually lift up our nonprofit sector. Philanthropy's on top, but it's really the public sector. So we knew we needed to change to be more nimble. We did not know the result of the election, again, nonpartisan, but when you now see the implications, you see the first 100 days of what has transpired, we know there's efficiencies. Let me tell you, I am all about efficiencies and trying to do something better. There is disruptions without planning, and I believe a lack of understanding across communities about what nonprofits do, how they're funded, and what local government does. So I think we're going to learn that through a moment of pain, because when we say we're going to zero out or hold 90 days of funding, nonprofits are barely making payroll week to week. When we zero out a program such as Head Start, that's 800 kids who are in programs, let alone the 200 staff, but it's 800 kids so parents can go to work and kids can learn and grow. These haven't happened yet. The Head Start is currently in the proposals.
So I just want to,
Yeah.
when you say zero out, you
No
mean
funding.
no funding,
No
no
funding
money. The
whatsoever.
federal government is not going to be giving money to Head
That's
Start.
right.
Is one of many. Go ahead.
One of many, and it's a flagship program, or the Older Adults American Act is also in discussion about some of those elements that would be removed. So right now it's all hypotheticals, right? We have all these hypothetical scenarios that are being signaled through budget memos, through executive orders, et cetera. So all you can do right now is look at the signals. And as United Way and as a local community, I'll go back to our local leadership. I want to lift up Congressman Morelli. I want to lift up Mayor Evans, and I want to lift up our Monroe County Executive Bello, particularly because they've been convening our local nonprofits and our funders on a regular basis to say what's happening, what do we need to know, what's the immediate response, and then how do we prepare for one of those hypotheticals will come true, if not multiple. And we know they will. And when you shift funding, where you shift priorities and protocols, we are preparing for looking quite different as a service delivery system over the next 2 to 3 years. It just will be. So right now, we're just trying to gather information, doing what we do best as a community. How do we collaborate? How do we stay informed? And then the ask to community members who may not be in the room hearing really all the what's actually happening day by day, the layoffs that are taking place, the homeless program that was shut down. Those who don't see that is to stay informed where you can and really help with the elected officials, particularly our federal representatives, so that they know what the impacts are. 200,000 residents in Monroe County are on Medicaid. If you think about changes to a Medicaid program, it's not an othering that's a third of our population. This will impact your neighbors, your employees, your workers, and our region. So we just have to be really thoughtful about what are the ramifications of these disruptions. How do we show up with calm and clarity? But we do know this is going to be a pretty difficult time.
Okay. There's got to be some good news.
Good news, people want to help. So when we look at what's happening for trends across the country and here locally, you can see it everywhere that people want to do something, but they're overwhelmed by it. So our advice is focus on the 2 or 3 issues that you're passionate about. You can't do whack-a-mole and look at all 200 plus things that are coming out in the news all the time. So pick 2 or 3, focus on those of what is your passion. And there is a need to get involved. At United Way, we run the largest day of volunteering in the region. 6,300 people last May came out on Day of Caring.
That's huge. Yeah.
My team just updated me today. We're just over 6,000 right now, so there's still time. It's on May 15, depending on when this airs. But every May is an opportunity to get engaged, and it's about coming together. What I'm hearing is our local leaders, our business leaders, our staff members through all the nooks and crannies of our community, people are feeling overwhelmed and disconnected, but they really care about each other. So how do we channel that goodness? So every dollar, please donate to your charities that you love. Please consider United Way, volunteer and be engaged. It really is about human connection and staying centered in that and knowing who we are. And that is an endless opportunity for good.
So I just looked at the calendar. This is going to drop on the 9th of May.
Nice.
So we're dropping on the 9th of May. You get 6 days to get
Sign up.
yourself registered for this incredible opportunity to give back to the community. I mean, people are feeling so isolated. So they're feeling so disconnected. They're looking for a sense of community, a sense of connection.
Well, to be productive too, right?
It's an amazing
Get off
day.
Facebook, stop arguing with people, and go donate your time.
Yes.
Right?
Well, and Volunteer United is every day of the year. So at United Way, it's a free service, but the nonprofits list what their needs are. What is good for family volunteering, what is good for your coworkers, your office. Like there's always an opportunity for volunteering and doing good. And then always partner and look for ways. Time, talent, and treasure is always what we need in the nonprofit space. And I am an optimist. It is going to be a very, 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 very difficult 2 to 3 years as we recover from the changes that we know are coming and the ones that we anticipate are coming. And in that moment, people can point fingers or they can raise their hands. And we are asking people to raise their hands and to be a part of something that can help us get through it. It will be different. Every crisis has an opportunity, so let us work together and collaborate to what this new thing may be on the other side.
Well, again, with you at the helm, I mean, it's going to be ugly. We all know that it's going to be ugly. Thankfully, we got you at the helm to try and get us through to the other side. So,
Yeah, Jimmy, thank you for your time and for everything. Really.
Well, appreciate it. Thank you so much. This is really my honor.
All right, let's jump to some real estate.
sounds great.
Okay, market update. Still holding steady. We had 415 single-family active listings in Monroe County last week. We're at 435.
Okay. Okay.
right now. So the jump and the increase we've seen post Easter, for the most part, is holding.
Yes, positive news, I think we would say, on the selling side of things. Want to go into buy side right now? Or
Well, hey, let's get the rest of the numbers
Yeah, I was
first.
going to say, let's put a pin in that. Let's
Yeah.
go. Yeah, you go through your numbers.
6-county region, that's up as well, 758 right now. That's up from 712 last week, so
Okay.
a healthy jump there.
Good.
Under contract and pending, those numbers continue to go up as well, 1044 this week. That's up from 986 last week. And for the 6-county region, 1507 under contract and pending properties. That's up from 1436. So things still moving quickly, churning quickly, lots of turnover.
Yep.
But yeah, I think just from a market health standpoint, I think it's positive to see that this is holding for now. Again, we're not anywhere near close to what we need for any kind of balanced market.
Right.
But it's a bit of an improvement. And I'm wondering if maybe even this, slight increase, this slight tick up from what we've been seeing for the last of the, from the rest of the year, is why things feel a little bit wonky right now, right? Because there's properties that are still going crazy over. I wrote on 5 this week.
Yep.
One had 6 offers, one had 9 offers, one had 8 offers, one had 29 offers. So healthy numbers.
Right.
And I didn't run into anything that my buyers wanted anyway that wasn't competitive.
There are definitely some things that are playing out, and being very frank, I sat down with Ed, our COO, about 5 weeks ago, and said, "Okay, I'm really concerned about the year to come. Not about Elysian so much, but in the macro, the U.S. economy."
Sure.
And I think that's starting to impact what's playing out on the buyer side of things here in the Rochester real estate market. It seems as if things that are underpriced, and this is one of your points on a social media post or some conversation. Maybe I think it was the text thread.
Yeah.
Things that are significantly underpriced are actually doing really, really well. You're getting a lot of activity, and properties are still selling significantly over asking. But I think that if the property is priced, quote unquote, appropriately, or if it's not in good condition,
Transparently.
yeah, if it's not in good condition, I think that's a subset of. So I've got a couple of properties in the market for sale right now. One in which, well, I won't bore you. Neither of them are great properties, and that's not meant to be unkind toward the sellers of these homes. But I think that buyers are being a little bit more discerning.
Sure.
And I think that has to do with the fact that there are quite a number of buyers who are pulling back and stepping on the sidelines until some of that which is playing out and emanating from Washington, some of that, once that starts to subside, I think that we might start to see these buyers come back. So I think that there is a pause, not an abdication of desire, but a pause on the part of a number of buyers right now until there's a greater sense of stability.
Or the ones that are sticking it out are the ones that are pickier because I'm going to endure what's going on right now. I'm going to increase the threshold of the type of property that I want. I'm looking for.
Well, or say another, Warren Buffett, is famous. I'm paraphrasing, and I'm going to do so poorly. But he talks about the smart investor are the ones who are actually acting boldly while others are behaving in a manner that is fearful.
Sure.
And so there are a lot of people who are fearful. There's a lot to be fearful about. You've got tariff policies, which may actually, well, we'll get into that in just a moment. But we've got concern about the chaos associated with tariff and trade policy. We've got the volatility that's playing out in the U.S. stock market, which actually is, there's less volatility over the course of the past week or so, which is great. Volatility.
The bar is low.
Yeah, well, that's very true. Volatility in the bond market. Consumer confidence plummeted from 106 in January down to 84 just last week.
Yep.
GDP contracted for the first time since 2022, spring of 2022. So that's concerning people. There's a lot of volatility, a lot of concern, and then people are concerned about inflation and whether or not these trade policies, and these trade policies probably over the course of the next 4 weeks are going to start to impact store shelves, and when there is demand but less supply. And we've seen that here in real estate
Sure
in
do.
Rochester. Well, now take that concept and transplant it into the store shelves at Target or.
Well, we've seen it a little bit. I mean, Wegmans put out their signs about bananas, right?
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Saying, heads up, we get our bananas from Costa Rica, and we're working with our our suppliers as best we can, but basically, could go up.
They'd better hire an entire effing department, pardon me, because you know what a fan I am. And
course,
this is
yeah.
not on Wegmans, but I bought I was starving. I had to buy a piece of a chicken breast, a cooked chicken breast. $11 for one
Really?
cooked chicken breast.
Yeah.
So, so you're starting to see, these prices starting to inch upward. Now, as we speak, we're waiting for. Yesterday, Jerome Powell, he had his press. I mean, so much going on. Jerome Powell had his press conference. More or less exactly what we thought. There was
We're
no
waiting.
change yet. We're waiting, exactly. But today, and this has been something that I've been predicting for the past few weeks. Today, the president is soon to pound his chest at a national press conference, stating that he has come to terms with England in terms of a tariff policy and some trade relief. So let's see what happens there.
Sure.
But that could be the first domino, and I'm hoping that will lead then to either Japan or India. Canada, Mexico. Those are probably some of the next dominoes. And the more wins, and listen, whether it's a win or not, I mean, we like the color of your hair, and like he's gonna triumph that,
Sure,
and,
yeah.
as a win. But whatever it is that it's going to take, and whether you like him or not, we all know that he's a master of self-preservation. He's going to take some of these wins, he's going to proclaim them as such, and hopefully that will start to increase consumer confidence.
Well, just even the settling of the matter, right? That's
Right.
in itself is going to be a win because it's going to take away this seesaw back and forth
Yes.
uncertainty that's going on.
Yes,
So,
yeah.
even if it's not great, at least we can look at it and say, okay, well, this is what it is versus now it's this murky water where we don't have any idea what's going to happen next.
Here's my latest prediction, if you'll give me just another moment.
Of course, yeah.
So here's where I think we're headed. I do think that he's going to have a few small wins. So whether the buyers who have pulled back of late, I think that that's going to continue over the course of the next few months. But I'm sensing that instead of the market slowing down September, October, the beginning of November, my sense is that some consumer confidence will have been restored September, October, and we're probably going to be very, very, very busy. Just as Courtney, will Courtney put a turkey in the oven for Thanksgiving?
My dad's the turkey maker.
Okay, all right. So as your dad is putting the turkey in the oven, you're probably going to be concluding the last of your deals, because I have a feeling this fall is going to be very robust.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers
That would
crossed.
be nice.
You got it.
You talked about the economy. Jobs report came out.
Yep.
177,000 jobs. That was above expectations.
Yes.
And then employment's at 4.2%.
4.2, yeah.
Again, I don't know what impact this has.
I
Because there's so much else going on, I guess, right?
Right, because you got GDP, which is constricting. It's down. Consumer confidence is up. Inflation actually is not doing bad, and employment not doing bad. But again, are there those dark clouds on the horizon that we should be concerned about and aware of? I think that everybody in the United States, including the president, knows that they're out there, and I think that he realizes that he's got a very, very narrow window in which to resolve some of the chaos that he's created.
How will all this impact rates? Again, who knows? But here we're at. Again, similar boat as to last week. It was 6.81 last week. We're at 6.86 right now. Again, it was higher. It's lower than it was earlier in the week. We're just going to continue to see this range for the time being until, I guess, something dramatic happens.
Right.
15 years at 6.19%. So, still higher than we'd like. I think it's still a world away from that 5.5 or 5 flat number that I think we really, really desperately need, especially here in Rochester, to unlock some of the inventory that's just been, it's Fort Knox right now.
I think any downward movement, but again, I'm not seeing any of that taking place for a while.
Yeah.
Do you?
No, unfortunately.
All right.
As optimistic as I try to be.
Yes, as optimistic as you always are.
I'm not going to go into delusion. It's too far. Should we shout out Fairport?
What's going on at the airport?
They were featured in the New York Post as one of the hottest real estate markets in the country.
Wow. Oh, really?
81% of the homes in Fairport are selling above asking price.
Okay, there you go.
Median sale price $350 for Fairport.
Wow.
I would say,
Yeah.
because I mean, Brighton and Pittsford are always two of the most desirable areas. I mean, has Fairport broken in to that threshold?
I'm not going to go that far.
Think it's still 3 out of if we have to rank these?
Because it's all tied to school district.
Sure, yeah.
All tied to school district. And Fairport District is awesome. And the town is awesome. And oh my God, like, as we know, I'm not going downtown
Right.
As readily as I am going to head into the other direction and head into. So there's so much going on in Fairport, and I am so happy for that town. I think life is. No, I was going to say life is no. That's
Webster.
Yeah,
We're life
yeah.
worth
All
living.
right, whatever. All right, whatever their
They
jingle
deserve a
is.
slogan. That's what they deserve.
Hats off to them because it is a great municipality. It's a great town, great village.
I mean, in terms
awesome.
of buzz, I think it's Fairport #1 for buzz.
Certainly. Yeah, absolutely. No two ways about it. Yeah.
And you talk about village living too. Again, Pittsford was always kind of the golden standard.
Yep.
I think Fairport's taken over.
Yeah, and that metric, absolutely. So hats off to them, and I'm so glad I missed that. Good for them.
Yeah. Let's see. How about cheers for us and the airport?
Oh yeah, I
Did you see this?
Yeah.
The Rochester Airport was nominated for some national recognition. So it's been nominated for USA Today's 10 Best Reader's Choice Award for Best Small Airport in the Country. It must be the awning. It's got to be the awning.
Actually, you know what? We have some awesome art in that airport.
The renovations that they did do to the airport, pretty phenomenal because it sucked before. Let's just be honest. It sucked really bad.
Well, I'm going back like probably 30 years, 25.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah.
30 years ago, probably like 1990 or thereabouts.
Oh, okay.
So Tom Fry was the county executive. He's overseeing the renovation of the airport at that point in time. And he set aside a large sum of money. And an old friend, Roz Goldman, was responsible for procuring the art in. So
interesting.
Oh my God. And there's some really, really, for an airport this size, just some great stuff in there.
But talk about the restaurants they added. Talk about, I mean, the Strong Museum's presence is pretty cool too.
Yeah.
It's always, I don't know, coming back from trips, you just, like, you feel more like you're home, right? Because you see those kinds of things. And I don't know if it's like a psychological thing, but
I sadly and unfortunately, tomorrow morning at 4 a.m., I need to wake up in order to catch a 6 o'clock flight. So
you feel less good about the airport. At that point.
So I mean, whether the airport is good, bad, or I won't know because I'm just gonna like sleepwalk my way to gate 3.
Will you be flying on Breeze Airways? Because apparently
Breezy Airways is that what?
Breeze. They will be they'll be offering new nonstop flights starting at, guess the price,
$99?
$39.
No.
Would you go on a plane where you paid $39 for a ticket?
I have been on a plane in Indonesia on any number of occasions.
Okay.
And this is a few years ago when, like, every time you open the newspaper, there was another plane that was falling from the sky in Indonesia. Literally, like, and I'm not exaggerating, like holes in the plane. And there are people, like, you know, you look across the aisle and you're like, there's like some woman who has like a plastic bag and like a live chicken in it.
Fair.
Like,
Okay.
It was,
all right.
it was crazy.
So Breeze Airways is luxury flying.
Luxury. Yeah. So where are they flying to?
I have no idea.
You've no.
They didn't say. It's cheap, $39. I will say, I tried Spirit for the first time, I think last year.
Yeah.
Pleasantly surprised.
Oh, there you go.
You know, everyone kind of craps on it a little bit. But
No, they've got the quality of the plywood used in those seats is insanely
they
good.
do nickel and dime you for everything. That's where they make up the money.
Yeah.
Oh, you want a Pepsi? $12.
Yeah, exactly.
One more thing to talk about here in Rochester, the revitalization plans from the former Rochester Riverside Hotel. What was it, Arnie, who called it that pink building? Or what?
Yes, I think it was.
A couple episodes ago. So they're going to put, let's see, 133 renovated hotel rooms.
Great.
And 161 residential apartments.
Okay.
And they're now.
Good.
Which we need housing.
We do need housing desperately.
The rental market, by the way, disaster right now.
Tell me why.
Here's a couple of stories that I've heard of.
Oh boy, I'm bracing myself.
There was one, again, Fairport. There was a rental listed in Fairport. I had people that went after it, and they did not get it because the person who rented it paid a year's worth of rent up front and signed a multi-year lease.
Wow.
And paid another $200 or $300 a month than what was being asked.
Wow.
Just to secure this rental.
Wow.
Like that's the level of competitiveness.
I'm not experiencing that yet. I mean,
Well,
it's
single
early in
family
the season.
homes.
Oh, single family home. Got it.
Because
Sure.
okay.
Okay.
What we're dealing with now, obviously, there's so many people that would have bought a house by now that
Yes,
simply
yeah,
can't,
yeah.
or they don't want to go through that process. And this is, I guess, the next best thing.
Yeah, I own one single family home.
Yeah.
So everything is geared toward apartment living. So
Yep.
yeah. Oh, that's great. Anything else on your list?
No. How about you?
Thank you.
Now, the show that you're back into?
Yeah. I had given up on The Last of Us.
Yeah.
And
Well, you didn't give. Did you give up, or did you just not start season 2? Did you finish season 1?
I wasn't compelled to start
Okay.
season 2.
Yep.
There's some genetic imperative that precludes me from going into the second season. And so you were telling me how much you were enjoying it. Great call, because it's intelligent.
It's really good,
The
yeah.
character development is great. The story arc is interesting, but I think it's going to become more compelling. It's really great. And there's a moment.
Yeah. Well, I think I said it on the podcast before when I watched it. It's a red wedding moment, Game of Thrones, the iconic episode.
Yeah, I refer to it as another moment from Game of Thrones that I'm
Yeah.
not going to mention because I think it gives it away.
Sure. Yeah.
So, so thank you for that.
You're welcome.
We've gotten 3 episodes in.
4 is good too. They've all been solid. They've all been
Okay.
really solid. This is how into it I am. I watched the show, and then I listened to the companion podcast after.
Wow,
but
that's
it's
a
really
deep
interesting. It's 2 of the showrunners, and then the guy that voiced the character of Joel, who is one of the main characters in the video game, because this is all adapted from a
Okay.
video game, and they just give insight into everything. And it's really interesting to get the perspective because one of the showrunners is the developer of the game. So there's always this kind of balance of they want to do honor to the game because they're sticking pretty closely to what happens in it, I guess.
So do they in this podcast talk about why it is that the Bella Ramsey character is such a sullen and surly bitch?
They don't shit on her a lot. But yeah.
I mean,
She's growing. I'll be on season 4. Episode 4. She grew on me.
okay,
a little bit.
Because I'm really just ready for one of those zombies to just
Yeah.
bite her head off or something. Yeah.
And I did also hear that season 3 is confirmed.
Oh, okay, great. Okay.
So there will be a season 3.
Okay, very good. Very good.
So I'm trying to think. What else did I finish? I just finished up Landman. I think I talked about that one.
Don't know it.
He's the general manager of an oil company.
Oh, you did-
Billy Bob
you
Thornton.
Yes, you did talk about this. Yes. Yeah, I think you might. Yeah.
It's got it's kind of like a trashy Friday Night Lights without football kind of feel.
And good teeth. Friday Night Lights, they had good teeth. They're a wholesome looking family.
Is that what that's what the show was about? Good teeth.
They
That's
were
your
just-
takeaway.
They were just wholesome. They were just yeah.
This is not wholesome. This is the opposite.
Yeah.
It's like if the Bundys from Married with Children were put into that atmosphere. But it's I don't know. It's entertaining.
I have no idea what that means.
Yeah.
But,
Okay.
but thank you.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Of course you would.
All right. So, the end of, and I want to shout out for our team, and then we'll call it quits.
Sure. Yeah.
2 things.
Okay.
One, this past weekend, I attended the Memorial Art Gallery
Oh,
gala with a number of the members of the team.
You go to galas?
Oh my God! So thankfully, this was, I think, the 8th gala that I had attended in 6 weeks. But I really shout out to members of our team who were attending. You attended one for Highland Hospital actually a few weeks ago. Hats off to members of the team who attended. They showed up. They contributed financially. A really, really impressive outpouring on the part of.
Fantastic.
And the other thing that's just so great, I'm just so we're talking about the fact that there's a difficult climate environment for buyers, and by extension, it's a very, very difficult climate for real estate agents. More than half of the agents at Elysian this past month, the month of April, sold in excess of $1 million. That's
Impressive. It's a big number.
Insanely good. I don't know if there's anybody else who can lay claim to that. I mean, that's
So it's what, 2/3, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Basically,
Yeah. I mean, of course, we're small number, but nevertheless, when you got 8 members of the team, that's great. And you were one of them, so
Thank you.
congratulations, bud.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
just
you. Appreciate
awesome.
that. Appreciate that. All right. Anything else?
And that's it.
Actually, you mentioned the Highland Gala. I just want to mention this really quick because I found it to be fascinating. We saw how a bidding war plays out in real life.
Oh, this is a great analogy.
Live
Yes.
action bidding war. We'll end with this. So Doug Embledge, auctioneer extraordinaire, is up there, and the very first item up for bid, I forget what the item was, to be honest, but it was valued at $2,000. He starts the bidding, $2,000. How many paddles went up, Mark?
None.
0.
Yep.
So he says, you know what I'm going to do next. He says, $1, everybody's paddles goes up, of course, right? It ends up selling for $2,600.
Right.
So just think about the psychology for a second.
Yep.
Not a single person raised their paddle for $2,000. Yet, when there was the competition and the buzz and the energy around
Yeah.
from other people bidding, it got to 26.
Yeah.
It perfectly explains
Good.
like this market and just bidding wars in
It's,
general.
it's something we talk about all the time: competitive spirit and testosterone, and the need to win, to prevail. All of that, adrenaline. I mean, people are, and ego. Ego plays a lot into it also,
Sure, yeah.
especially with those live auctions.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody wants to prevail. So yeah.
Well, there you have it. Well, thank you for a great episode. Thanks again to our guest, Jaime Saunders. Fantastic.
Gangster.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Who do we have? Do we know who's up next?
Yes. Just don't ask me.
It's a great guest. It's a phenomenal guest. You'll find out who it is next week. Talk to you then. Bye.